Muito boa tarde para todos. Mais uma vez, bem-vindos ao que é, de facto, a última sessão, antes da sessão de encerramento do 49º Congresso da Luso-American Education Foundation, que este ano, portanto, é realizado sob os auspícios do PBBI, o Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute da Universidade do Estado da Califórnia, em Fresno. Esta sessão vai ser em inglês, mas gostamos sempre de dar duas ou três palavras na língua portuguesa. We'll transition now to English. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Luso-American Education Foundation, welcome to the 49th Conference on Education and Culture, this year hosted by the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, PBBI, at California State University, Fresno. Welcome to each and every one of you following us here on the Zoom platform, and welcome to those who are following us on the social media platforms. We're very pleased that as of this morning, I haven't looked at this morning's figures, but as of this morning, the first 2 days, we were able to reach a little over 7,200 people, almost 7,300. So that is wonderful to get such a viewership and people interested in these topics. That sometimes is not everybody's cup of tea. It's not just like it's not a video of a bullfight in Terceira Island. Welcome. This is a trip down memory lane and a trip into the future. So it's called On the Road to 50, Memories in Perspective, Luso-American Education Foundation Yesterday and Today. And so from the first steps to the golden milestone, we carry these echoes of shared memories, friendships forged, visits to the hospitality or the hostility suite, depending on who you talk to, and the guided, of course, all guided by the Luso-American Education Foundation towards a century of connection, communities, and inspiring generations. We have prepared or I have prepared 5 questions, me and my co-chair, José Luís Silva. Mine, no, he's not mine. We're a team. There's 5 questions that I'm going to put forth right now, and then we will go through a list, and everyone will just kind of give their take on all 5 or any of the 5. And so our order will be because Deolinda Adão, who is the chairperson, will be back at 4 for closing ceremonies. Deolinda has another conference that she's attending. And so it'll be Deolinda, and then Dr. Manuel Barroca, and then Eduardo, Eusébio, Manuel Bettencourt, and José Luís da Silva. And I'm gonna refrain from giving my thoughts until the end because everybody knows how I feel about everything because I'm always too vocal. So the questions are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 1 is kind of memory and legacy, so the people following us know what we're going to be discussing. So looking back on nearly 5 decades of this conference, what do you see as its most defining contributions to the Portuguese American education, culture, and community life? Number 2, friendships and community. This conference has always been more than lectures and panels. It has been a space of human connection. And I was kidding about the hospitality and hostility suite, but it's always been about human connections. How have the friendships, collaborations, and shared experiences at the conference, in your vision, helped sustain its vitality year after year? Number 3 are challenges and resilience. Not long-standing conference is without any long-standing conferences, of course, without obstacles. Everybody has obstacles. All things in life have obstacles, from funding to generational shifts to evolving cultural needs. What were some of the major challenges over the years from your perspective and the ones you've been involved? And how did resilience, creativity, and community commitment have kept this conference alive? We are the only conference, by the way, in all of the United States and Canada, I verified, that has this length, okay? The conference then at UCLA lasted a little under 30 years. Other conferences, a symposium that we put together that many of you were part of, and I thank you all, lasted 12 years. And so many of these things, as I said, it's like buying a product, a canned product that has an expiration date. And this one has not had that expiration date. Format unity and cohesion. Since 2020, the conference has been held now online, reaching new audiences while changing how we gather. Do we see the virtual format as a form of continuity, or should we return to an all in-person model? More broadly, how can the conference, whether online or in person, serve as an important venue for unity and cohesion, helping bridge generational, cultural, and ideological divides, that's a tough one, in a polarized society? And beyond the golden milestone, as we approach the 50th anniversary, what is one concrete solution or piece of advice you would like to offer to ensure the conference continues to evolve? How do we keep it as a beacon of connection, of knowledge, and of belonging for the next half a century? Take one, take all, take anything that you'd like, and we're going to start with Deolinda Adão.
Wow. My goodness, I thought this was going to be simpler. But I guess simple is not you. So we should know better. Maybe I would address them all in one.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And if we go back, I know I am old, but I'm not here from the very beginning. You know, I guess, but nonetheless, the Luso conferences today are not, of course, we all know that what they were in the beginning, and maybe that is a reason why they're still here, because at a different moment in time, different things are needed to achieve the goals of promoting Portuguese language when that's more necessary, or Portuguese culture, or community interest, depending on what is necessary. I feel that today, what we need to maintain is a link to the community, to provide a sort of a glue that still keeps us involved to our Portuguese ancestry. Much more so that we need, like as in the beginning, we had the need for bilingual education, or we were doing those different things, or when we were receiving no support of having any material, any teaching materials, we're all inventing our own classes and, designing our own materials, and we had a forum to share those materials. So the conference has evolved as the needs of whatever we were doing also have evolved. The same thing with COVID, we went online because we couldn't get together. That addresses the second question, which is, that is the one thing we are sort of missing out. We're missing out all the friendships, all the camaraderie, all the human portion of these meetings. Many of us have forged friendships there at the conference. We would forge partnerships. We got to know each other. We were able to share successes and frustrations, and that is a gift. So again, that is the one thing that I see going forward, maybe something we want to think about, is how can we maintain the wealth that we have gained from being online. The virtual has allowed us to have a much greater audience, have a much greater impact, have more people linked in and maybe become interested in the subject matters that we are discussing, which is a real plus. So I, for one, do not think the future means we would can the virtual. However, those of us who were used to having that camaraderie, we do miss that human connection. So perhaps we may want to think about hybrid. I don't know, but there may be something that we would consider for the future, at least for the 50th celebration, I suppose. So the greatest challenges we all know. There are two big challenges: money and people, or shortage thereof. There are always just a few of us doing all this with very little funds. Those are the challenges. Again, virtual allows us to reach a much greater audience for a much lower cost. So cost-wise, that's very efficient. It virtually has helped us with some of the struggles, although the number of people, the staffing, let's say, is still a challenge and a struggle. And nobody knows this better than Diniz. I mean, many of us on this panel have organized conferences before and would probably feel inept to do it today because of the digital resources that are no longer available to us or that we are not able to tap into. So I think that we should continue. I think that there is still a place to grow and share. And I think it is extremely important to have one conference that deals with cultural and educational aspects of the Portuguese community. We have still a vibrant community, although everybody complains about that. But then we're Portuguese. What would we be if we didn't complain? We would lose half of our identity. Yeah, I like your nodding. But nonetheless, so I think that is my take on all your 5 questions, sort of in a capsule. And I don't know if you would like me to elaborate, but I think I've elaborated sufficiently.
Okay, no, that's great. That's fine. Thank you so much, Deolinda. I know that you have commitments.
Yes, this is
Around when you can and leave when you can.
it is insane. There are 365 days in a year, and 2 conferences that I really want to be at are on the same exact days. Is like, what are the chances? But here it is. And again, virtual allows me, finally, all my life, I wanted to be able to be in 2 places at once. And voila. You guys have a great panel. I'll see you back at 4 p.m. And enjoy yourselves, and please be good.
Thank you.
And if you have to be bad, be very bad. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Deolinda.
Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Manuel Barroca. I'm not going to repeat the questions. I just want your thoughts on it, and basically the same kind of. You can elaborate a bit more if you want to, not be as brief as Deolinda, or you can keep it brief. It's up to you. Welcome, Dr. Barroca. Mais uma vez.
Thank you, my friends. And excuse me, this darn cough kills me. I thank you, Diniz, for organizing this Luso-American Education Conference. The PBBI, Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, and the Fresno State University for hosting it, as well as all those who helped you putting this together. Likewise, I thank all the participants in the conference program. Interesting topics, exciting presentations, a good conference. One thing, I agree with what Professor Adão just presented. Is one thing that we should not forget. The Zoom link attracts thousands of people, and it is an extraordinary way of reaching the community. You know, our electronic scientific progress is fantastic, but there are some points that one should analyze. We must be careful not to neglect the socialization part of the conference. We realize the inconvenient factor of distance, where some of these functions take place, but it can be corrected. I would say you people are very, very capable of doing that. I was thinking perhaps something like closing the conference, the last day, the closing, consisting of a feed getting together at a convenient location for the participant members of the Luso-American Education Foundation and all members of the diaspora who are interested. The Luso-American Education Foundation is an organization that we should be very proud of. It has contributed, or of course I would say, due to you and all those who have worked extremely hard to maintain our projected views, the preservation of our culture and the expansion of it, as well as language. I am very thankful, for instance, for our having introduced more teachers, contact with more schools where our culture and language are taught. Years ago, many of us remember that Portugal was part of Spain or was located in Puerto Rico. And our Portuguese was actually a Spanish dialogue. We have overcome that lack of knowledge. And we have really maintained and expanded our culture in the United States. Nowadays, because of our efforts, not only Portuguese of descent are able to learn and contribute to the dissemination of our culture. We have helped other individuals who are interested in working for the propagation of our culture, and we have helped them out through our scholarships. And another point is that human connection brings people back each year. We need a involvement of our new generation and the true passion for preservation of our culture. We need continuous work. You people have done a fantastic job. May our Luso-American Education Foundation, and I have very strong hopes and feelings that it will be around here for a heck of a long time. Thank you, guys.
Muito obrigado. Enlightening words and very beautiful words. Thank you, Mr. Manuel Barroca. I'm going to turn now to, when it comes to the conference, there are people that have been at this conference, 15 years. I know that Dr. Manuel Barroca was in the original, also in the members, and in the foundation. Manuel Bettencourt has been here for a long time as well. José Luís Silva. I'm a newbie because I started as a reporter, and then I transitioned into education, and but I've always been part of the conference anyway for the last almost 30 plus years. But when it comes to talking about the conference, if we make an analogy to the Bible, Eduardo is Moses. So he was here before he's from the beginning. He's the one that took the commandments and started even before Christianity started. Started the Judaism. So Eduardo is Moses. Eduardo, your take on what the 5 leading questions were, and anything else that you'd like to add. You've been a pillar, obviously, of this conference for many, many years. You're on. Your time. I think you're on mute. So you're on mute.
I thought you were saying very good. It's time to go. Thank you, Diniz. My first words before anything else. We need to thank you. The community has a lot of gratitude towards you. Of course, PBBI and Fresno State. You are the 3 pillars, the 3 everything, bridges, you name it, to make this happen this year and the last 5 years in a row. So thank you. Now, a conference happens for a reason, and some things need to happen before a remedy comes up. So I'd like to talk about some dates and some events that brought about the beginning of the first conference and then the subsequent 49 after that. 1957 is a date that all Azorians know, the Capelinhos, when a volcano decided to erupt, and that threw a lot of people into the immigration to the United States and other countries, but particularly the United States. In 1965, there was the Kennedy-Pastori bill that all immigrants of my age know about, that ended the nationality origin quotas and opened the quotas to more people. 1974, there was the Portuguese Revolution, and that has an effect too. And in 1976, the Chacon-Basconi Bilingual Act was enacted in California. And why this last 1970, this bilingual act? Because the schools of California had many, many students from many countries, including, of course, from the Azores. And it behooved on us to bring the best education possible for those students. And that's why the conference was born in 1977, the very first one. I should say that we were actually prodded, encouraged by the State Department of Education to have this conference, as long as the Koreans, of course, the Latin Americans, and many more. So we had the first conference in San Diego for the purpose of what? To inspire people to be teachers. As a matter of fact, we had some today, Lisette De Rosa said, I got a scholarship from the foundation and I went to study in Coimbra, and that encouraged me. Isabel Cabral Johnson, that I think should be, also has said that in the past, and many, many other teachers. So that was our first attempt at bringing a remedy to bring better education into the classroom, in particular in the K-12 level. Then, as we got more teachers, we also needed to train them with better tools. And that's what we brought. People that taught them how to be better teachers. We had some help at the time from from Portugal and from the Azores, but in particular from the government of the Azores. And I think you mentioned, today was yesterday, Emilia Mendonça, and she was the one that made sure that the teachers were ready and had what they had to teach. But there was always a problem. There was never enough. And I remember that Emilia Mendonça one time in frustration, she said, you know, teachers invent and they do their best with their students when they have materials. Of course, we all are teachers. We know that's kind of difficult, but you know, that's how some things were done at the time. Now, we also did not forget about the parents in the community. And as you know, we always had a component, a community component. And that was very important because there were myths. And some of the myths were with some of the Portuguese parents that, you know, you learn English and Portuguese and that at the same time, that might not be a good idea. And we had to dispel that myth and to tell them it's okay. It's okay to be bilingual. Look at all the Portuguese today. They all speak the languages, English and Portuguese. And it's very rare now to find anyone that doesn't say some words, at least in English. So we had that commitment to the teachers and to the community to interchange ideas, to stop this myth, and so forth. And that kind of answers the first question that in your series of questions. You also asked about friendships and community. Well, everyone in this panel and many more became my friends, my close acquaintances, so to speak. You, Luís da Silva, Dr. Bettencourt, Manuel Barroca, Deolinda, and others. People that, if it wasn't for the conference, I probably would never get to know. And from the Azores, of course, I mentioned Emilia Mendonça, Eduardo Mendes, who was of course, there are many others that took his place, but I'm talking about way in the past. Senator Henry Mello, if you remember him, as well as John Vasconcelos, because this was also politics. When you talk about education, there is a lot of politics. I mentioned some dates when some things happen, but there is one date that probably no one or very few people remember, and that is 1953. In 1953, a governor of California signed Bill 53 that ended the exclusion of teaching in English in California schools. Until 1953, it was prohibited to teach in any other language but English. That governor was Ronald Reagan, by the way. Probably would expect that from another governor, but it was Ronald Reagan. So after 53, other language could be used. Of course, Portuguese was always used in community schools, in private schools, and I suppose even were schools with the government didn't reach, but that was way back then. And of course, the 1967 Bilingual Act that formalized, and not only formalized, but required that students be taught in the best methods possible. If you're Portuguese, you should learn math in Portuguese, you should learn the science in Portuguese or English, whatever was best for you. And of course, the other element was also learning Portuguese. And that's why bilingual education was so popular with our community, in that we all talk about teaching Portuguese, but we somehow have a problem to figure it out in a way that we get the masses to participate, except at that time. And then, of course, there is another date, and that's 1998. For those that are counting, that's Proposition 227 that restricted the teaching of bilingual education as we knew it. Frankly, I thought that after that date, the conference was over and that we would not have a conference again. But that was not the fact. we continued sometimes at very difficult time with, I remember one was kind of put together in a rush with Manuel Bettencourt, and I think he called me. Before I called him, I remember exactly. Said, we need to get this conference going, and you'll have an opportunity to talk more about that. And we didn't want it. We wanted to stop. We wanted to continue. And obviously, we want to go into the 50th conference next year. By the way, in 2016 is another date. Then Prop 58 passed, and that Prop 58 again brought the return of bilingual education, not exactly as we knew then, but a much more doable in classrooms, especially in schools, in elementary schools with a certain number of students in them. Speaking of the 50th anniversary, or 50th, you know that CABE, the California Bilingual Education, a huge organization, they have the 50th conference or the 50th anniversary next year. So we were right behind them, or with them, I should say. As a matter of fact, we were invited to be part of CABE, and after much hesitation, elaboration, and that request of the State Department of Education said, you know, it's best if you have your conference separate from CABE, so we have more power. We have more organizations working for the same result. Now, as far as the future then, we know that we've been successful to have a conference online. We've been doing it now for 5 years, thanks to Diniz Borges, PBBI, and Fresno State. And of course, I should also mention José Luís da Silva, who's always been your right and left arm. These are probably other people that I should mention. Now, it has been said, a lot of people, including the representative from the Azores, José Andrade, that it should be in person, or at least some of it should be in person. And I have a suggestion that it be an element in person, in a hotel someplace, or a school, or a college, or a hall. We have, I think, Diniz, you mentioned we have 85 halls in California. I think one of them will be available to have a conference of. And who would we invite to that hall? Who would participate? Of course, everyone that would like to participate, we would start with that, but specifically teachers that still have a lot of Portuguese students of Azorian background, or Brazilian, if you will, in their classroom, and to address them not just in the language, but someone, I think it was at the workshop of José Luís da Silva was in charge, I can't remember the title, and he said, how much history and culture of the Azores was taught? And everybody said, none, zero. So I think here's an opportunity to invite those teachers and those principals at those schools to send these people to this hall, or maybe have 2 rooms, but I don't see a bunch of rooms that would defeat the purpose. And we talk about history, the culture, and the possibility to bring the language to their classroom. These are schools that, of course, would have to want to do it, but they would not pay for anything. On the contrary, they would pay for their lunch, and if possible, we would give them an honorarium. I don't know where the money's going to come from, but hey, we can think anyway. We'll find out. We want those teachers that come across Azorean students to be able to talk to them Azorean, talk about, know their culture, know their history, where they came from. And we could sneak some methods of teaching the language for those that might be interested. I'm sure that we know a few people that can do that. That'd be for those that would be present in this hall, this school, whatever it could be. It could be in Tulare, it could be in San Pablo, I don't know. It could be in two places. And then we would fulfill the needs of the community, because the conference needs to meet the need. The need at one time was teachers. The second need was teachers that were bilingual. And now we need to meet the need of the community that asks us, where can I have my child learn Portuguese? I hear this all the time. Do you know any school? Well, we have the online courses that Senator Carapinha has, and many others. I think there are some, I believe, I'm not being updated on all of this, that the Instituto Caminho or some other organization has some online courses, but I don't know how easily they are available or not, but maybe that could be talked about. And then another need that we have is a better and more relative representation of Portugal and the Azores. I know that I read an article that someplace, I think it was written by Diniz Borges, he was advocating some, and I think I talked about this conference already, that they have not just the, what do you call the representantes das comunidades portuguesas, but a minister, maybe have several deputies, not just like there was mentioned on the representantes das comunidades portuguesas, not just one or two or three that we now have, but more that would have more power, make more noise, and get more things for the Portuguese. After all, they all say we have 5 million Portuguese outside of Portugal. Well, if you're only 5 or 6, all right, 5 or 6. I mean, 5 or 6, not 5 or 6 million. And so this is kind of my vision to going forward. But we need to continue to embrace other organizations like FLAD, for example, and others that would be in the same road with us towards the same destiny and to meeting the same needs that the community needs. And as actually was Clemente Fagundes said, and they reiterate again, all the kids like culture. They don't like the language part. You know what? Maybe the culture part we need to teach, and the language part, they can be done with some machine that you speak in English and repeats in Portuguese. Technology takes care of almost everything, except your roots, where you come from, and give you a standing in a community. And by the way, let's not forget the parents. They also should be invited to be part of the of this conference, the future conference. Not that they were not invited for this, I'm sure, but you know, we need to get a more one-on-one approach to that. Well, this is what I had to say. I was probably going to take a lot longer, but I had to wrap it up all in one. I hope that you were able to follow up. I didn't ramble too much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Eduardo. Manuel Bettencourt. Manuel estava deitado assim, quase a dormir, but I don't think...
Não, era para descansar a minha perna, mano.
Perna.
Okay, now it's my turn, right?
Sim, senhor. Manuel Bettencourt. Doutor Bettencourt.
Okay. I have been...
Amigo, arranca dentro.
Okay, arranca dentro. I have been looking at this panel, and I just noticed that I'm the only one who's not a teacher. And I was a teacher. I was going to be a teacher almost. But when I graduated in biology at San Jose State University, 1975, I wanted to be a teacher, biology teacher, and they told me, oh, but now there's no openings for biology teachers in Santa Clara County. I went to my advisor and I asked him, what should I do? There's no openings for biology teachers. And he told me, okay, you have two options. One, go for the master's, PhD, and then you can teach in the university or high school or wherever. Or you have another option. You can go to dental school, medical school, but if you do this, you're going to make double. That was my decision not to be a teacher, because I wanted to, well, I would be successful in life also. Anything you do, if you do it well done, you'll be successful. But I went to be a dentist, and then that's what I did. When I finished dental school, first of all, to go through these 5 things, I'll try to go as fast as I can. What the most contribution that we gave to our community was to promote the Portuguese language and culture with our conferences. In the early 1980s, Dr. Geraldo Silva introduced me to Luso-American Education Foundation. And I was in the committee for the Portugal and the Luso-American Education Foundation anniversary for many years. And we had meetings in Oakland at that time. Then in 1992, I was the co-chair for the first my first conference in San Jose with José Luís da Silva was the co-chair, and Eduardo Eusébio was the president, 1992. Then I was the co-chair from 1992 many times, over probably 20 conferences, because, as you know, I was president twice for 8 years, 4 years each time, and chairman of the board many, many times. And I was always involved with the conferences. At that time, the conferences were in hotels, and then we changed to universities some years later. One thing about these conferences was the friendships in the community. Besides our objectives in the Portuguese language, I think the socializing part, the interaction, the human contact, the stories, the jokes in the hospitality suites with Manuel Felix, Manuel and Almeida, human lady, I forgot her name, that liked to say jokes. We had a different time. Socializing also is very important to our well-being. The challenges for me at that time were the fundraisers, selling ads for the program. I know when we went to Berkeley, we lost money some of the time. We didn't lose it, we invested. The one that we made the most money was at San Jose State University in 2013 and 14, because Mimi Machado was in charge of the ads for the program, and she got over $14,000 for this conference. Was the one that we had the most money left. But with this, all this work, with our persistence and the hard work that was going on in our conferences, these conferences were the most that I did work the most and working, but with a pleasure of doing it, because it was for our Portuguese language. But the format of the conferences, even if I like in person, I admit we should continue with a virtual format. We should change with time. Even the water in a river is not static, it changes, it moves constantly. However, it could be a hybrid, mostly virtual, but we could have one day, like a Saturday, with a dinner, with an excellent speaker at an university where Portuguese is taught. One thing that we should continue is also bring the students from high schools to tour an university who have done it for many years. And after the tour, they could have someone teaching them how to register, how to apply to an university, how to get scholarships, etc. Now, to finish, beyond the golden milestone, I mean, the next will be the 50th anniversary. And as I mentioned before, I think we should continue the virtual format, but with the last day, like I said, like I mentioned, we should go to the university or to a high school where the conference is transmitted with a speaker. Because also we should, on this 50th anniversary, we should change also some things. The communication in the English newspapers, it's almost non-existent. I subscribe to the Portuguese Times, New Bedford, Luso-American in New Jersey, and our Portuguese Tribune. And according to the surveys, probably 12, 14, or 15 people of 350,000 that we have in California, probably 12 or 14% speak Portuguese. Most of them, like our children, our grandchildren, they don't speak Portuguese. Our newspapers, the communication should be, the newspaper should be at least half in English. Now it's very easy to translate with Google, and we can promote our language with the Portuguese speaking in English. And I think that what we should do in the future, one thing that also we should do when we go to the university or high school or whatever, we have to alternate. I have to go to Berkeley, José State, Stanislaus, Fresno, San Diego, or even a high school. But we should translate, we should go to the Portuguese taught on these institutions. Thank you.
Obrigado, Manuel. José Luís.
Well, first of all, it's great to be among friends. And one of the great advantages of being last is that everybody has said everything. So I don't have to say very much, but I still will cover the areas that you so diligently sent us. Well, starting with memory and legacy. I first of all think right away about Eduardo Eusébio. Eusébio was the founding father of this movement of conferences, or Portuguese language and culture conferences. And at those days, as was already described, I'm not going to repeat, we were different days, different times, different realities. Bilingual education was king, and we were all motivated by two basic factors. Number one, the recent immigration from Portugal, mainly from the Azores, and at the same time, this effervescent enthusiasm in California about bilingual education, something that the Hispanic community started, and we went along and we did a good job on that. And the conferences, most of them in the beginning or towards the first years, were large gatherings, places of great prestige. The Luso-American Education Foundation, in my opinion, achieved a lot of its prestige at home and abroad, particularly in Portugal, through the conferences. We had people coming over, and they were looking at the Luso-American Education Foundation through the conference. I know that other important things were done, like scholarships, many good things. As a matter of fact, I received a scholarship in 1974 to study in the Summer University of Lisbon, and I never forgot that. I really am very thankful about that. But those conferences were a place to do a bunch of things, to discuss methodologies, how to teach Portuguese, how to teach bilingual education, how to plan political strategies to implementing and advancing Portuguese programs, how to connect. We also did a good job connecting our community, mostly in California, with other parts of the United States, mainly the East Coast. We had people, somebody mentioned Onésimo, for example, would come over, and many others that would come over from Canada. And from Portugal, not as much, except for a few individual politicians. We had a very close relationship with the Azores. Somebody mentioned Professor Eduardo and others, and those were people that started a very familiar connection with our foundation and our teaching of Portuguese in California. So that was the very interesting and powerful event that we had year after year. I wasn't there in the first one, but I was in the pretty close to that. And so friendships and community, of course, in a social environment like that, where we had workshops, where we had the special rooms for socialization, where we had meals together, that created an atmosphere of camaraderie and friendship and connections among teachers, of community people. We had people coming, representatives of the parents from different areas. And we also had students that performed. They would have folklore and do different things. So we had all these elements in there. And so these were the golden years of the conferences. And so that's where the friendships and all these great connections became, was that Tip O'Neill that said that all politics are local? So I go one step further. All politics are personal. It's by establishing the connections that we were able to be able to help each other. We also transmitted knowledge from one program to the other. There's a good thing that somebody developed, and they would share the materials with us. We'd take it to our classrooms. So it was a great symbiotic event. Well, the challenges in resilience. The challenge was, as bilingual education
levels came down, as immigration was slowed down and basically disappeared, and we did not have this fresh blood of parents and students, we had to evolve gradually to different things. So one of the challenges I think we have in our Portuguese world, not just our community, it's the same thing in Portugal. We say it in Portuguese, uma pessoa desarrasca tudo. We have one guy, one person, one lady that we all very much about having one person or two people take something on and then maybe creating a little bit of support. We are not very good, and we are still not very good about having a communal organization, putting things together, but a lot of people being involved. We rely on individuals, whether it be Eduardo, Eusébio, Bettencourt, or so other people, Diniz. We rely on these people to be able to create miracles, and we need to evolve into a more modern, more perspective of organization, where it's more of a social togetherness with the same effort towards the same goal. I really like to see us work, a lot more people working on this. I mean, like right now, we have Diniz putting this together for 4 or 5 years, with some support. But this conference deserves a lot more support from the people around this whole event. The format, very interesting. I really don't disagree with anything that was said. I may have a different perspective here and there. The format, I agree with what was said, and we need to continue with the online. I think we've reached numbers, and we've facilitated things, and we've cut expenses by doing that. I do agree we should have one event, one big event that's social. There's different perspectives. I kind of envision, I think about what happened in 2013, the 50th anniversary of our foundation, where we had in one hotel an event that had about 300 people. We had to turn people away. It was a very special event because a lot of people, those of you present over here and others, worked hard, rolled up their sleeves, and let's do it. From a variety of, even from selling the tickets to decorating the hall to everything. It was a community event. So we can do that. I would like to see an event like that, maybe not as grandiose, but in an hotel. I know, for example, we delegate to Manuel every year to do the Dia de Portugal dinner, and one person alone cannot create miracles. He cannot sell 300 tickets. So if we're going to do something, we need to have all the people involved, all the people that wear the uniform of Luso-American Education Foundation to be at there, rolling up the sleeves and taking this as something of their own. Okay, talk is cheap. We need action. So I would like to see that. I would like to see, Diniz mentioned in the previous workshop, we mentioned the name of someone, and that I would like to see a main keynote speaker, somebody that would attract people. And I'd like to see the community get together, be there, be present to one event, maybe a dinner, but have a big keynote speaker. I think, for example, Superintendent Carvalho from LA Unified School District, coming in, a Portuguese immigrant, a Portuguese speaker, a person that is in one of the most important districts in the United States, is leading that. I think it will be a beautiful thing to have and to attract people to our event. So summarizing what I'm saying about what I'd like to see is continue with online, with more involvement from everyone in the Luso-American Education Foundation and the community. And I would like to see a celebratory, let's call it, I hate to say grandiose, but big event with a big personality that could attract people, and all of us committing to do everything we can. We cannot rely on Manuel to do everything. He's very good, but he's not a miracle worker. We need to have everybody around and doing these things. Now, finally, beyond the golden milestone, how do you see us going from here? I think we need to create a cadre of younger people interested in Portuguese language and in the Lusophone world. I battled this very much. Portuguese world is very vast. The Portuguese language is so important by its richness and tradition, but also by its numbers. And we all say that Portuguese is the fifth, sixth, seventh largest language in the world, the most spoken language in the Southern Hemisphere. But we have to admit that we are that because of Brazil, because of Angola, because of Mozambique, because of other countries. So particularly Portugal and Brazil, and we have a Brazilian community here. We have to reach out to them. They have to reach out to us. I know that Diniz did a wonderful job, and I was a little bit part of that when we had the development of the strategic plan for the teaching of Portuguese, and Diniz picked the name Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, meaning that it's not just our little world, it's not just my island, my archipelago, my Portugal, it's the Lusophone world, Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute. We need to celebrate the 50th anniversary of this conference with that globalization in mind. And as I said, I did not disagree with anything any one of you said. I think you all touched important aspects of it. You all showed your wisdom and your knowledge of this event and this organization, and all four of you are part and will always be part of the history of this conference and of this organization.
Eduardo, do you want to add something before I close it, or before I do my? You had your hand up. I don't know if that's to applaud or to say eu quero falar. Queres falar? Não, estás em mute. A gente não te pode ouvir. Nós não te podemos ouvir, Eduardo, e não tem nada a ver com isto.
Isto tem duas coisinhas, uma lá em cima e outra cá em baixo. É da de baixo que tens de tocar. A gente vai aprendendo. Não, José Luís, o problema que temos na Califórnia é o tamanho da Califórnia. Estamos dispersos. Se formos fazer, por exemplo, para já estamos limitados para ter um grande grupo de jovens a ajudar, ou temos que ir para Toledo ou São José. Eu não vejo outro lugar. Pode haver, se existe, não sei onde.
Interlock.
É?
Interlock e tem San Diego.
Então, e antes que eu me esqueça, há uma pessoa que eu devia ter mencionado e que foi instrumental na primeira. Isto é a primeira conferência, não sei se vocês
Não posso ver.
não se vê nada. Ainda,
Não.
agora aqui.
Go ahead in English though, so we don't lose the audience.
Ok. A Joanne Malta Weingart, ela teve connosco desde o princípio, e a Joanne, ela deve estar a ouvir com certeza, e merece pelo trabalho que ela fez, o agradecimento. Era isso.
Can I just add something, Diniz, very quickly?
Okay. 30 seconds.
I think for the 50th anniversary, the first thing we should do now is to have a meeting with some of us, or a lot of people, some of us, and decide where it's going to be and what to do. To have a meeting for this. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Manuel. Okay, so let me just disagree with all of you, except Dr. Manuel Barroca. I'm not disagreeing with all of you. I just think there's some points there. I think Manuel is right. I think this needs to be discussed internally. We're doing this on a public forum, which I'm all for, okay? Because I don't like closed doors. I don't like, things in the sacristia. We've had too much of that in our blood for too many years. So I'm all for an open forum. I believe that, Eduardo just pointed out what we know, of course, and all of our people following us and those here on Zoom and on social media which is the largest in the state of California. Sometimes Congressman Jim Costa says he has to remind people on the East Coast, other congressmen, that California is like 14 of those states. So they kind of forget about that. And so that's the vastness. So I believe, like Manuel Bettencourt said, a youth day. I think I proposed this to the foundation. Okay, if you go back, I think we record all of our minutes. I propose that we do 3 youth days per year. It doesn't cost that much money. And that would be one in San Jose State. Not necessarily, it could be San Jose State or anywhere in the Bay Area, okay? And then one in the Valley. It could rotate, 1 year Fresno State, 1 year Stanislaus, and one in Southern California, which could be rotating also between, for example, Fullerton, if they're interested, and San Diego. But I think it needs to be that. or else it will always be, it will always be this region. And the days that schools had money to pay for buses to go 4 hours each way are gone, completely gone. Okay. And there is not ways to fundraise. That's the other thing. Number two, we talked about, so I do believe, and this has been proposed by me many moons ago. I think Manuel and Luís remember, they were on the board, that we do 3 youth days per year. Okay. 3 youth days per year with that university. When Eduardo, he's a utopian. He still dreams, like all of the Portuguese. When we talk about, a hall, I would just caution anybody, and I'm, a big fan of our halls, and I think they should continue for many generations, and they will. But I don't lose your educational connection. Don't lose your connection to the universities, high school, because if you do that, that is the end of the conference as we know it. Okay, and for the conference to become a bold light, we have already too many of those, or enough anyway. For the conference to become, so I would not lose. I would not lose that connection at all. I would keep this conference. It's 49, 50 years. It started in hotels, but it started with educators. So, and then it transitioned to a university and to a high school. I would keep that connection. The issue is, and what Bettencourt said, and I agree, it should be from university to university. The issue is I invited every single university and nobody answered. So maybe it's me. Maybe it has to be Manuel inviting them. I don't know. I'm open to not being me inviting them. But I invited, last year I invited, if you remember, I invited every single university. And this year, when the conference before it changed kind of the format a little bit, I invited. The thing, so there has to be some. I reached out 2 years ago to other areas on the phone and on messenger or email about doing it in person. If we recall, it was talked about on the board. Let's go back to in person in 2023. And I reached out to 2 areas that I thought would say, and both of them said, we have no appetite any longer for this kind of an event. So I think you need to be cognizant of that. Don't wait too long to make the decision, because there may not be somebody that wants to take over 2 months before it's to schedule and do, fazer das tripas do coração. So do make those decisions. I think the board needs to, I think Manuel is right. You need to discuss it and go forward with it. Don't lose that connection. I think is very important. And I do believe that, we have to be, these are different times. Do you know that I cannot have any single person coming from Portugal or any part of Portugal, because the Azores and Madeira are also part of Portugal, any part of Portugal or anywhere, or Brazil as a speaker? Do you know how much it costs? Because the rules have changed at the universities. Now they have to pay for a working visa because they are working, doing a conference, okay? And it costs $2,745 for the visa. So for me to bring a speaker from Portugal, paying his or her airline tickets and just 3 days in the hotel and then going back to Portugal, it would cost about $5,200. I just don't have that kind of funds, So what do? I do it online, and I give someone an honorarium of $300. They're very happy. Okay. They get an honorarium of $350 for an hour's worth of, that's not really an hour because they've had some research, but it's for them to talk about their thing. So we have to remember that as well. And I'm always Luís when it comes to the communal aspect of it. I just don't see that. I don't see, just like there wasn't an appetite, many years ago, there's less of an appetite now. I mean, my students told me something that I in the last few weeks, and even last year when I talked with this conference, I also did the same thing. And those who are of Portuguese background, they're content and happy with going to a festa once or twice or 3 times a year, and that's enough for them to be Portuguese. Okay, so I believe that it would be important. I want to just to let you know, you can go online and see how many speakers we had in each one of the sessions, other than this one. This is the only one that everybody answered to, that and is here. I have the speakers that were on there. I invited 3 times that amount. 3 times that amount, multiple emails, okay? And some did not show and some did not. I believe that we have not created in the community the need to reflect, okay? The need to because this conference is about that. This conference is about reflecting who we are and where we're going. And we like to do festas. I would like to end by saying that I think I'm not going to have an opinion on it. You folks do whatever you'd like to do as far as the board is going to do whatever it likes to do. And I respect it 100%. And I'm not going to talk about the past. You all did a wonderful job and thank God that you all did what you did and everyone else. That's why we're here 49 years later. But I do think that the 50th anniversary should be an in-person event, the celebratory event. Okay, I think that was Manuel Bettencourt and I think Dr. Barroca also mentioned and everybody mentioned. So I think it should be a celebratory event, and I actually would like to see it in San Diego because it's where it started, and because it's a pretty area. You might get people going down there for a weekend, because who wants to come to a not so pretty area for the weekend?
But we started.
Huh?
That's where we started.
That's where you started, so that might be something that you want to do as a celebratory, as an evening of camaraderie and get together and everything else. If you wanted to do it anywhere else, I'm sure it would be successful with that as well. However, I do think that the future of the conference is basically online. Manuel mentioned that, both Manuels, and I think that it's online. Whatever we do, it has to be online. We have an issue with educational and reflection in our community, and I think that we need to build younger people. Yes, I think we do need to. I had one, but I wasn't able to get the 5 people that I thought that would be interesting, that are young. When I mean young, you don't want to get, a 17 or 18-year-old, with all due respect, but they don't have the experience yet in the community. But we have a lot of young people. If you look, especially in the Valley, and I think in San Jose, in the Bay Area, and Southern California, we have a lot of young people involved in the Portuguese American community, people between, let's say, 28 and 38. And so I think we need to cultivate those a bit more. And I think that maybe, some of our younger people on the board can help us with that. But I would not lose the university connection or the high school connection or both. I would not lose the online connection, and I would certainly would do move to a celebratory of the 50th anniversary, and maybe even a once a year event that's celebratory. But the days are gone. And the last few years, it was a success in person before the pandemic, because let's be honest, and I'll take myself out of the equation, I kind of helped with José Luís, but because the Instituto Camões had a protocol, okay, not the we had an agreement with Luso-American Education Foundation, and where that funds coming, we used 50% of them, almost 48 point something, for the conference. Okay, it was that event. We're not going to see checks or payments of visas and airline tickets from the Azorian government or from anywhere else. So I think the online venture as well. And the conference would have not had, or would have had very few teachers, both in 15, 16, whatever year. We were there 5 years, wasn't it, Luis? 4 to 5 years. Those 4 to 5 years, we made sure that there was enough funds to pay for all teachers who wanted to attend, their mileage, their tickets to lunches and dinners, and their hotels, okay? Because school districts will not invest in that anymore. Unfortunately, people are not going to pay it out of their pocket, and I understand that. And I don't see the Instituto Camões, the same Instituto Camões that Manuel criticized, and rightly so, yesterday in the Conselho das Comunidades. I don't see Instituto Camões paying $7,000 to $8,000 to do this anymore, because they have their priorities on a different level now.
Yeah.
Anyone else to end it?
I just would like to add something. You mentioned that I know you invited some people to help you on the conferences, and none of them say they would do it because they don't want to work, because they don't have initiative. So, like I told you yesterday, if you have people in our communities like you, our language would be more successful.
Thanks, Manuel. But you are right in one aspect. It's not me, but you are right in one aspect. Very, very right in one aspect. You know, there aren't any more active Manuéis Barrocas and Eduardo Eusébios and Manuéis Bettencourts and José Luís da Silvas, and also, you know, people like Mayon Diaz who travel this state from top to bottom doing conferences for free. Ramiro Dutra. You know, we had a lot of academics who were, you know, the only one doing some of that is still Deolinda, but she's retired now too. So we don't have a lot of academics that are willing to travel on their own from place to place and do this kind of stuff. It's a different world now, and it's nothing against them. You know, it's just they have different priorities, and I think maybe our priorities are wrong. Maybe we're kind of stuck in the past, but they're not going to do it. And even online, they don't find a lot of prestige. They would rather do this if it was a Brown University or a Yale or Harvard, you know. And so there's a lot of this, you know. Sometimes the academy has its nose up in the air a little bit, you know, and that's the way life is, unfortunately. But I believe that there is a bright future for Luso-American Education Foundation conferences, because I do believe also that if our conferences die, a significant part of Luso-American Education Foundation dies. Because to give bolsas de estudo, and that's great, but there's lots of other organizations doing that. It's not just a Luso thing giving scholarships. I mean, there's hundreds of organizations, Portuguese throughout the country, giving scholarships. So I think there are a couple of things, and one of them is the conference, and the other one is the program for the summer camp, which I think should be expanded as well. Anyway.
The summer camp didn't go this year already.
I know, well, but it will. I'm sure it will. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Sorry for being negative at the end. I don't like to be negative. I just want to be realistic about it, and I thank you all for your and it's you know, people say, but it's much easier for me just to do, you know, I'm mandated by what I do at Fresno State to do 2 conferences per semester, not conferences, 2 talks per semester. Last semester or this semester with the Luso conference, I'll do 28. I only get paid for 2.
So, you're a pro at it now.
But I think it's important for the community, and as long as I'm there and as long as I have health, I'll do it. And thanks, Manuel, for the piropo.
Thank you very much, you great workers. You know, may the good Lord give you a lot of strength. The many years of living.
Well, you know, I'm 15 years older than Diniz, so you know he's got something to catch up with me.
Thank you all very much. Thank you all for attending. We'll have the closing ceremonies.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.